Dragon Quest VII Reimagined. When they first announced a second remake of the very ambitious DQ7, I'll admit I was a bit apprehensive. While the game looked amazing visually and promised all sorts of modern quality of life features, the developers also announced that they would be cutting out major parts of the story to supposedly make things flow better. The original game on the PS1 is one of the longest RPGs of all time, and has developed a bit of a polarizing reception over the years due to its mysterious, confusing nature, which provided an intriguing setup to some and an annoyance to others. So years later they made a remake of the game on the 3DS that addressed a lot of these complaints. But apparently that wasn't enough, because now they have remade the game for a second time, promising to reimagine it for a new audience. Which brings up the question, did they pull it off? Well, I'm here to tell you that this game does a lot of dumb shit. I really wish the changes stopped at just the story. It wouldn't have been ideal, but I could have lived with a sort of abridged DQ7. But no, that's not what they did. In their quest to make the game more appealing to a wider audience, the developers have gone back and simplified nearly every single aspect of the game, from the exploration to the gameplay, dulling down the entire experience. For every good decision this game makes, there's at least 2 bad ones in the mix, and I'm worried that future Dragon Quest games will repeat these same mistakes, so I have to bring attention to this and why these new changes are bad for the series as a whole. So obviously we need to talk about the story. When they first announced this remake, the developers were very open about how they would be shortening entire story chapters and cutting whole scenarios from the game that didn't seem relevant to the main plot, framing it as a positive change, something that would make newcomers more receptive to the title. And I've always had my issues with these constant attempts to shorten DQ7's story. Yes, the original game is very long, but it used that time for world building. It helped you get to know the characters, the lore of the world, all this aided in foreshadowing events to come and immersing the player in this journey. I am just against cutting content from the game on principle. The whole thing feels counterproductive to the idea of making a remake. To me, remakes should only add content, never take things away that people liked. It feels to me like they care more about the opinions of people who didn't like DQ7 over the actual fans of the game, and what we're left with is a much faster paced game that rushes a story. It doesn't really let you get lost in this world that they've built, and with this idea of rushing the player, they've also made changes to the exploration to make things a lot easier. The original game was really great when it came to letting players explore and figure things out for themselves. You would have to really think about where to logically go next and where to find a solution for whatever problem you're trying to solve. Reimagined is not like this. DQ7 Reimagined completely removes any kind of player investigation in favor of putting flashing exclamation points exactly where you're supposed to go. Yeah, they totally Ubisoft this game. And before you ask, no, you can't turn them off. I tried. They are just there no matter what, even on the hardest difficulty. This completely ruins the entire sense of player exploration. You don't figure out anything for yourself in this game. It's like all the answers are just spoon-fed to you, and that really is a bad decision in a game that hinges on its mystery. The original DQ7 starts you off on Estard Island, the only island in the entire world. Right away, the game presents you with this huge mystery of what happened and why the world is like this. And the intro section was extremely engaging, having you do a ton of investigation around the island, eventually leading you to the Shrine of Mysteries, this forbidden temple that might just hold the answers you're looking for. And what ensues is a complex, multi-layered puzzle dungeon, somewhat akin to 90s adventure games. The dungeon had challenging puzzles, riddles, and waterways to manipulate across various rooms and floors, making for a massive, mysterious labyrinth for players to get through, and it was only after clearing this section that you get to travel through time to piece together a world forgotten. And this entire section has been gradually getting cut down more and more with each remake. The 3DS version already completely simplified the puzzles, basically removing any way to actually fail them, and now Reimagined straight up removes practically the entire temple, with the only actual puzzle leading up to it being insultingly easy. This is it right here. You move 2 square blocks into 2 square holes. That's it. There are literal toys for infants more complicated than this. This is what Square Enix thinks of you. They literally think you are dumber than a baby, and we're just accepting this. You don't even rotate and place the pieces of the tablet fragments anymore, even that's automated. And this example is just a symptom of a bigger issue. They are simplifying almost everything in this remake, even the gameplay. The core gameplay of DQ7 Reimagined modifies so many staples of the franchise that have been here for years, making things way too easy and even breaking entire mechanics that worked perfectly fine before. For starters, they have completely changed the way the game handles death. Ever since Dragon Quest first introduced party members, they've dealt with your characters dying in battle by putting them in these coffins that you have to drag around. This was a good example of Dragon Quest's morbid humor, and more importantly, it made death very punishing. The main ways of reviving your party members were either using a mid-game spell or visiting a priest in one of the towns and paying a hefty fee. This added tension to the overall act of exploring a dungeon. You'd have to monitor MP levels and make sure your healer is safe. It made one of your party members dying into an absolute death sentence. You'd have to plan escape routes and try to survive. So, how does this new beginner-friendly DQ handle death? By removing it. They have removed coffins from the game. Now, when one of your party members dies, they don't actually die. Instead, after the fight is over, they're automatically revived with 1 HP, just like in other RPGs like Final Fantasy or Persona. There's no coffins, the priests don't revive you anymore, the option is just not there. I have such a big issue with this. This isn't how Dragon Quest does things. It's too damn easy, it makes death have no consequence. And then you have how weirdly inconsistent this difficulty is. For some reason, when you get beaten by a boss and try to rematch them, it cuts your gold in half, which means players will instead want to reload their autosave right before you talk to the boss, meaning you'll have to watch the boss cutscene all over again just to not lose your money, which is such a dumb oversight. And don't even get me started on the actual battle system. One of the most baffling changes in the game is how it handles inventories. Previous DQ games had a simple way of handling this. You had a bag with unlimited space for all the stuff you collect, and each player had a limited inventory space on their person. So in battle, you'd only have access to items on your person. You couldn't access the bag. This made it so you'd have to think about what each party member would bring into battle, whether it be items, equipment, or consumables. It added another layer of strategy to the fights. In DQ VII Reimagined, they have simplified this by removing player inventories. Now, you only have the bag with unlimited space in battles. There's no more player inventory. This means that you can potentially have access to hundreds of consumables in battle, and it also means that players can't use special items unless they're equipped. They're taking away options when fighting, making the battle simpler and easier at the same time. There's just so many strange, baffling decisions like this that don't work well at all. It feels amateurish, like they barely playtested the game. It boils down to a lot of little things that you wouldn't notice at first, like how all the chests look the same, even the ones that require a special key to unlock, or how stat seeds don't have RNG values anymore. Also, the party AI barely works as intended. The Show No Mercy option has party members healing for some reason, which isn't supposed to happen, and this is especially bad since now they can use items from the bag that you might have wanted to save for later. And then, you have issues with this brand new UI they're going with. It looks nice at first, but when you actually play the game, it feels weird. It's really strange how everything's organized. There's elements that feel like they're in the wrong place and are hard to find. Like, why is the option to change equipment in battle hidden under the tactics menu now? And why is there an entire window just to look at status conditions when there's already symbols telling you all this? These are just a few of the many basic UX issues present. The more I play this game, the more little problems I keep noticing. They just keep piling up. This is the kind of thing I'd expect from an amateur dev studio that never put out a game before, not the creators of Dragon Quest. And what's so bizarre to me is how this game comes right off the heels of the Dragon Quest I and II HD2D remakes, which was just an excellent collection. Those two games showed a genuine love for the originals while also vastly expanding their game worlds, adding more content and even more challenge. Here, they went in the complete opposite direction. For example, DQ2 added a whole Yggdrasil questline complete with a brand new area to explore, while DQ7 removed the entire Yggdrasil part along with its island. And most noticeably, the DQ1 and 2 remakes are fairly difficult games that demand a lot of strategy when it comes to character builds and boss battles, while this game is much simpler in comparison. The HD2D games added to the experience, whereas this one just cuts so much from the original and barely offers anything new. This game removes beloved characters, there's dozens of monsters missing from the original, they also remove the monster classes, the unique vocation outfits from the 3DS version are gone, entire story segments are cut, and entire parts of the world map are missing, including the casino. This whole reimagining is just so baffling, especially releasing mere months after a very good remake. So what gives? Well, it's important to know that this game was developed by a completely different team than the HD2D games, being headed by a brand new producer, Takeshi Ichikawa, this young upstart who is serving as producer for the first time ever, with his job being described as prioritizing the game as a business product rather than a work of art. He admits in interviews that he never beat the original DQ7 as a kid because he found it boring, not even managing to get through the game's intro section, and that he means to rectify the game because of that. So you see, this remake isn't being made from a place of love. It's being made by people who don't like the original and see it as something that needs to be fixed, all while ignoring how a lot of these original elements gave the game its unique identity. and it is a shame because there's a lot I like about the game. Presentation-wise, it looks fantastic with this amazing handcrafted style they're going with that really invokes a sort of warm vibe that Dragon Quest is known for. Controlling your character feels much more smooth and responsive, and dungeon crawling is way better than the 3DS version, with wider passageways so monsters don't just spawn right on top of you. And even though they're removing a lot of characters and events, the characters that are left over are actually a lot more fleshed out and given way more personality, motivation, and backstory. But it's like I said earlier, for every good decision this game makes, it also makes 2 bad ones. This is just really frustrating because people often ask me what version of the game they should play, so what am I supposed to say here? Am I supposed to recommend people play the PS1 version when this one is so much more accessible? This is gonna be the version people play in the future, and it just sucks because it's not the complete Dragon Quest VII experience. My main takeaway is that I really hope the Dragon Quest team learns from this whole situation and doesn't make these same mistakes in the future. If these changes represent the future of the series, we could have some serious problems soon. I hope you found this video helpful. If you want to hear more about Dragon Quest, you should check out this video right here. I think you'll definitely enjoy it. I'll see you there.